Okay, well, this is Anthony Keoli. I'm the Regional Director for the Alaska Region Training and Technical Assistance Center, and we're excited to bring you another National ANA webinar today. I'm coming to you live from Wasilla, Alaska. Beautiful spring day here, still very wintry outside, but we're getting lots of sunshine, and temperatures are finally warming up a little bit. So today we're going to be presenting on environmental highlights from ANA. And before we get started, we're just going to go through some basics on some protocols for using BB Collaborate. This is our webinar software that the Alaska region uses for our webinars. We'll go to the next slide here. So as we, during the introductions here, we encourage everybody to mute your phone lines if you're dialing in. Be sure to turn off your computer speakers so we don't get any feedback. And throughout the webinar today, we encourage you to go ahead and type in your questions into the chat box. One of our staff here is going to be taking a log of all the questions. And then at the end of the presentations today, we're going to go through those Q&A. We'll do the chat box questions first, and then we'll open it up and do have people raise their hands. And I will be selecting folks from that, and we'll do those questions and answers at the tail end. So again, use the chat box for any questions that you have or comments, and we'll be recording those. Test your headset using the audio setup wizard, and I'll show you on the next page where to find that. And also, if you've dialed in, we have a few people that have used the teleconference phone number. If you've dialed in, next to the audio setup wizard, there's a little phone icon, so please click that so that we know that you've dialed in via the teleconference. And I'll show those icons now. So this is just a graphic of our BB Collaborate, and there's lots of options and buttons here, but we're just going to use a few of these today. The audio setup wizard, click on that and run through that so you're prepared if you're gonna do any or ask any questions at the tail end using your mic. You're going to want to make sure that that is set up. And then when we do the Q&A, we'll also be asking people to raise their hands. So the feedback, step away, raise hand, and polling responses is located here in the participant chat box, right over here. And then lastly, the chat panel is in the left corner, and you can type your questions right in there. So that's just a quick overview of the layout here in BB Collaborate. And if you have any technical issues, we have a staff member, Angela Camus, our training manager, standing by in the chat box room, so you can email her there or post a chat there and let her know if you're having any concerns or problems. All right, thank you. So just real briefly, today we're going to be discussing ANA's environmental program, the ERE, Environmental Regulatory Enhancement Program. We have a presentation from one of our Alaska ERE grantees, Talida Village Council, and we also have a presentation about the Tuscarora Migration Project, which will be presented by one of the ANA program specialists. And I'll be doing the quick introductions for the presenters as just before they do their presentations. We really want to thank you for joining today. We had a lot of people sign up just in the last day or so it's exciting for us to see the interest as word got out. And we're doing this really to celebrate Earth Day, which is April 22nd. So in celebration of that, ANA is sharing info about the work we've done to support environmental programming and activities in Native American communities. So today we're going to learn a little bit about ANA's support of environmental issues in those communities. We're going to hear from a current ANA grantee in Alaska, Telida Village Council, about their project. And we're also going to hear about a great adventure that was recently completed by one of ANA's program specialists, the Tuscarora Migration Project. Just so everybody knows, ANA's funding opportunity announcement for the Environmental Regulatory Enhancement Program, or ERE, as well as the SEDS, the Social and Economic Development Strategies funding opportunity announcement, and the Native Languages funding opportunity announcements are anticipated to be coming out soon. Before they come out, we wanted to share some information about ANA's support of these environmental initiatives. So we're looking forward to hearing from folks today in the chat box and from our presenters. And like I said, we'll be taking some questions at the end using the chat box first. So put your questions in there. And again, if you have any difficulties, also put that in the chat box, and Angela will respond to that. So just real briefly, a little bit about the Administration for Native Americans. ANA promotes self-sufficiency for Native Americans by providing discretionary grant funding for community-based projects and training and technical assistance to eligible tribes and Native organizations. We offer weekly webinars, and the next webinar is April 25th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time, 11 a.m. Alaska time, which will be the second part of our 4-part application development series, the 6 elements of a good grant. And for those of you that are participating in those, if you complete all 4 of the application development webinars, you'll be receiving a completion certificate. So the Administration for Native Americans is a program office in the Administration for Children and Families, which is an operating division of Health and Human Services. As part of ANA's training, we offer weekly webinars, like I just mentioned, and we're doing a lot of technical assistance as well. It's not just funding grants, but we're supporting collaboration. We've been deploying virtual communities to bring together different organizations and promote partnerships within the regions. So we're doing a lot of exciting work above and beyond just the funding of grants. And then real briefly, the Administration for Native Americans contracts out some of its technical assistance by region. So the Alaska region, which I represent as a regional director, is contracted to 3-Star Enterprises. And just a little bit about 3-Star. We are an Alaska Native Village Corporation owned subsidiary based or owned by the Ainska Corporation Oceanside. And our shareholders are based in Perryville. We also have some on the road system in Anchorage and also some in the lower 48. But Perryville is an Alutiiq community, or Sukbek, and it's exciting that a village corporation has been able to be contracted to provide this technical assistance in Alaska. All right, so our first presenter today is Courtney McCusker, and I think the last trip I did with Courtney was doing an impact evaluation in Guam and Saipan, and that was exciting, and I certainly learned a lot from her in her field of impact evaluation. She's an impact evaluator under the Division of Policy, Planning, and Evaluation, and she's been working at ANA since 2011. Her work includes conducting impact visits, producing an annual report to Congress on the impact of ANA funding, and conducting internal data analysis to inform policy and process decisions. So Courtney holds a BA in Global Studies from William & Mary and a Master of Arts in Political Science from Colorado State University with a focus on sustainable development and environmental politics. Her previous experience includes working on tribal transportation issues through the TTAC program at Colorado State University, and conducting research using GIS and qualitative methods. She currently lives in Alexandria, Virginia with her husband and 2 dogs, not far from her hometown of Sterling, Virginia. So Courtney, you're our first presenter today. Take it away.
Thanks, Anthony, for the introduction, and good afternoon or good morning to everyone. Again, my name is Courtney McCusker, and I'm going to talk briefly today about ANA's Environmental Regulatory Enhancement, or ERE, program, and highlight some of our grantees' accomplishments. In 1990, the Native American Programs Act, or NAPA, was amended to strengthen tribal government capacity to identify, plan, develop, and implement environmental programs. The ERE program at ANA is designed to bolster regulatory efforts in a manner that is consistent with the tribe's cultural preservation and natural resource management priorities. Applicants are required to describe a land base or other resources, such as a river or body of water, over which they exercise jurisdiction as part of their application. So the following groups are eligible to apply for ERE funding. It's federally recognized tribes, incorporated non-federally and state recognized tribes, and Alaska Native villages. And although the 1990 ERE amendment to NAPA is limited to Alaska and the lower 48 states, ANA highly encourages applicants in the Pacific region to take advantage of the Social and Economic Development Strategies, or SEDS, program for implementing environmental projects. For example, some past SEDS grantees from the Pacific have done projects on sustainable agriculture, creating a database of land and natural resource records for research and education on traditional land resource practices, and planting and harvesting traditional foods. So in accordance with NAPA, ERE applicants and grantees may use federal sources, excluding other ANA grants, as part of the match or non-federal share contributions to their project. And this is unique to the ERE funding area. So ANA has found that the most common ERE match sources from federal funds is the Indian General Assistance Program, which is funded by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. As many of you may know, ANA conducts impact evaluations each year with roughly 70% of all ending grantees, or about 1/3 of ANA's total grant portfolio. We try to visit a representative sample of projects. For example, in 2012, 10% of ending projects were ERE grants, and 9% of the projects we visited were ERE projects. Information collected during impact visits is largely used to write an annual report to Congress, and that's on the impact and effectiveness of ANA funding. So ANA started impact evaluations in 2006. We visit projects from all the funding areas, but since we started, we've visited a total of 47 ERE grantees. About 5 to 8 ERE projects per year are visited. Within the ERE funding program area, each project will identify a subcategory or focus, and that's what the chart here shows, a breakdown of the subcategories for all ERE projects we've visited. So you can see the general categories of environmental work that these projects do, and also a snapshot of the types of environmental projects that ANA funds. Most ERE projects that we visited were focused on developing regulations, ordinances, or laws, and the next largest category was environmental assessment. So the next table here is going to show some highlights from what ERE projects have accomplished out of those that we have visited since 2006. During impact visits, we gather both qualitative and quantitative data, which we use to improve our own service delivery to better assist grantees, and to share the stories of our grantees with other Native communities and with the public. So for just a couple of highlights, over 1,000 individuals received some type of professional development training as a result of ANA ERE funding, and 54 environmental codes or regulations were developed, 33 of which were implemented during the project periods. You can read some of the other outcomes there. So while I discuss briefly some ERE project best practices and beneficiaries, We're going to run some photos that we've collected during past impact visits to ERE projects. We'll also share a couple links to relevant resources on the ANA website, including a report on best practices collected from all grantees we visited so far, as well as the 2009 and 2010 congressional reports. So you can check those out for more information on these projects. During impact visits, we ask grantees to share best practices, and that's one way we use the data to help others. In 2012, the most frequently reported best practice for ERE projects were relating to project management. So for example, regularly review the objective work plan and communicate updates with project staff as you go, and submit things for tribal council approval early. Collaborate and form partnerships was the next most frequently reported, including presenting at regional conferences when you have the opportunity, and partner with state offices such as the State Archaeologist or Preservation Office, as well as local historical societies. So as we get some more of the 2012 data analyzed, we're going to update the best practices resource on our website, and we're also working on developing some ERE specific resources. So finally, we also ask grantees to identify beneficiaries of their projects and describe how they benefited. Some examples reported by ERE grantees visited last year include tribal environmental departments, which can now make data-driven decisions. They've built staff capacity and infrastructure, and generally know more about what's going on their land in terms of harvest management. Tribal members and tribes have also benefited from protecting long-term subsistence food supplies, and now have more of a voice in state tribal discussions. Grantees reported an increased awareness of regulations and environmental issues among the general community as well, in addition to increased recycling, greater awareness of sustainable hunting practices, and access to wildlife expertise. These benefits, of course, also extend to the environment, as ANA projects are addressing specific problems such as poaching, burning tires, animal control, and land and water pollution. So these are just some of the great things our ERE grantees have accomplished. And as I mentioned earlier, here are a few resources we have on our website that relate to our discussion today. So please check them out. And I'll now turn it back over to Anthony so we can hear from one of our current ERE grantees about their project. Thank you.
Thank you, Courtney. That was great. So now that we've heard a little bit about the ANA environmental program as a whole, let's hear about what one of our grantees is doing. So now I'd like to give a quick introduction to Charlene Dubé. Mrs. Dubé works for the Talida Village Council. She's responsible for the Talida Village Council Environmental Department. Her duties include, but are not limited to, planning, developing, establishing, and managing all environmental and conservation programs for the tribe. Some of the programs consist of, but aren't limited to, assisting the tribe with solid waste management, recycling waste, environmental education, and water quality testing. Charlene enjoys long walks with her dogs, and she's been in Alaska since 1992 and currently resides in North Pole, Alaska, which is just outside of Fairbanks. She enjoys her job because she values the opportunity to help protect human health and the environment in rural Alaska. So, Charlene? Charlene, if you haven't hit the talk button, please hit the talk button.
Hello?
Yeah, you're
Hello?
good.
Am I on?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm here to talk about the baseline water quality assessment Talida Village is doing to protect human health and environment in the Kuskokwim River. The Kuskokwim River is the second longest free-flowing river in the United States. Tolida Village, along with several other Athabascan tribal communities, is located in the headwaters region of the river. The tribe was interested in maintaining the health of the Kuskokwim River. The river is a vital part of our natural resources and helps to supply many of the traditional foods that we depend upon, such as whitefish and salmon. We were concerned about mining coming into the area. Mines use a lot of water, and they have the potential to pollute the river and to contaminate our traditional foods. There was a limited amount of water quality data available because there had been little previous research done in the past. The tribe wanted a systematic plan to collect the baseline data. The data will give us a snapshot of the river and can be compared to data that is collected in the future if mining and development come in. Project goals. The tribe wanted to obtain baseline water quality data. They wanted the water quality samples to be defensible in court in the future. And most importantly, we wanted to be able to train our tribal members to be able to assist with collecting baseline water quality samples. How did we go about doing this project? First, we contacted a consultant to help us plan the project. Next, we worked with the consultant to develop the Quality Assurance Project Plan to ensure that we would meet the Environmental Protection Agency standards for water quality testing. And we have currently collected 1 year's worth of baseline data. Our Quality Assurance Plan was based upon the Quality Assurance Plan developed by the Native American Fish and Wildlife Society and the Kuskokwim River Watershed Council. The tribe took 7 measurements to look at the health of the river. These included dissolved oxygen, pH, temperature, conductivity, turbidity, nitrate, and nitrite. The upper Kuskokwim drainage that we took our samples in covers 6,000 square miles. The area has been covered with glaciers in the past. Most of the area that you see now is covered with soil that was left after the glaciers receded, wind-blown particles, and deposits made by the river in water erosion. The area is underlain with sedimentary and igneous rocks. We took samples in the area surrounding 4 tribal communities, Tolida, Nikolai, McGrath, and Takotna. According to the Alaska Department of Environmental Conservation, the North Fork and the Swift Fork, which are part of this drainage, are the only areas on the Kuskokwim River that are still considered to have natural background conditions for the river because there has been no mining on it and very little human usage. We collected our samples in the drainage in the spring and the summer in 2002. Afterwards, we put the data that we had gathered into a table so we could look at it. Next, we graphed the data so that we could examine the trends. We found the dissolved oxygen was higher in the spring than in the summer. This was to be expected because the temperatures were lower in the spring. We also found that the temperatures were higher during the summer, and this was reasonable because the air temperatures were higher during the summer. And the pH readings were similar to each other during the spring and the summer. The water quality measurements were similar for most of the sampling stations. And we also found that the water quality measurements were consistent with the expected levels in naturally flowing rivers in Alaska. The tribe is comparing our results to other databases. We want to see where the results are the same and where they are different. 2 databases that we are using are the United States Geological Survey and the Kuskokwim River Watershed Council database. We will be doing our second round of monitoring during the spring and the summer this year. The goal of our tribe is to develop a long-term water quality monitoring program that will keep the river healthy for future generations. And the tribe would like to thank the Administration for Native Americans for funding our project and the University of Alaska Bristol Bay Campus Environmental Science Lab for helping us work up our data.
Thank you, Charlene. That was great. Again, if anybody has any questions about Charlene's presentation, please put those in the chat box. And our technical assistance manager, Donnie Flegel, is going to be logging those, so we can go over those at the end of the webinar today. All right. So our next presenter is Denise Litz, and Denise recently completed a bike ride adventure to help share the Tuscarora story, and she's got some great photos to share as well. Denise Litz joined ANA in January 2013 as a program specialist and is an enrolled member of the Tuscarora Nation from Niagara Falls, New York. She comes to ANA from Denver, Colorado, where she began her federal career in 2001 for the Office of Head Start. Denise has over 15 years of experience in the field of early childhood and a strong background in disabilities. She completed her bachelor's degree in human rehabilitative services and her master's degree in early childhood special education. She's been active in the Denver Indian community through teaching positive Indian parenting at Denver Indian Family Resources for 5 years and as the Head Start Director for the Denver Indian Center in 1991. Denise is a proud smoke dancer and is an active member of the powwow community. She's also written 4 curriculum units on Native American topics published in 1999 to 2001 for El Alma de la Raza curriculum and teacher training program. All right, Denise, take it away.
Thank you so much, Anthony, for the introduction. So this is an opportunity for me to share information about the 2013 Tuscarora Migration Project, which I just wanted to emphasize, it's not actually a project that's funded by ANA, but since I was able to participate as a part of the project for the first week of April, and it has an emphasis environmentally, I wanted to just share my experiences from the cycling trip. So to start off, I just wanted to give a small amount of background about the Tuscaroras and some basic information about the migration project. All the information that I'm sharing is going to be highlighted in more depth in one of the newsletter articles for ANA coming up shortly, but it's also available on the Tuscarora Migration website, and we're going to share the resource information on the last slide of the PowerPoint, so you'll be able to get that. So for those of you who are not familiar with the Tuscarora Nation, the Tuscarora were originally located in North Carolina, and Tuscarora has the unique distinction of being the first Native American nation dispossessed of our land during the European settlement of North America. So as a result of the Tuscarora Wars that occurred in 1713, it's estimated that over 1,500 1,000 to 1,500 Tuscaroras were killed and another 300 wounded. Okay, it says 500, but sorry about that. Regardless, this loss was so devastating to the remaining Tuscarora that they decided to abandon their homes and head north to seek out the protection of the Five Nations. So in 1714, chiefs of the Five Nations delivered a wampum belt to New York Governor Hunter, and with the message that the Tuscarora have come to shelter themselves among the Five Nations. They were of us and went from us long ago, and now are returned and promised to live peaceably among us. And since there is now peace everywhere, we have received them. So this migration that occurred from North Carolina to New York took many trips and many years, and where Tuscaroras traveled north to be together. So it's this journey that happened 300 years ago that's being commemorated with the 2013 Tuscarora Migration Project. So the mission is to migrate via running, hiking, walking, biking, and canoeing, utilizing the strength and spirit of our native youths.
and they will be sharing our Tuscarora story and bring awareness to 3 objectives. The first one is to share our Tuscarora story of amazing Indigenous survival. Considering the historical hardships the Tuscarora Nation has faced over the last 500 years, it is remarkable that there are still Tuscarora people here. The loss of land, water, forest, language, culture, ceremony, and an overt attempt by European immigrants to colonize the Tuscarora has undoubtedly resulted in changes in the way in which we move about. The second objective is to bring attention to climate shift. And the migration participants will be using applied research techniques to prepare eco-cultural reports from the field, describing the current status of cultural and historical sites, natural histories of plants and animals encountered on the trail, environmental protection and planning updates from communities along the way, and foraging techniques that may hold promise for future bioeconomies. And the third objective is to raise awareness about the need for more human-powered movement. This migration is to reenact a human-powered migration. It's to celebrate the cultural survival and indigenous knowledge by walking, running, and paddling 900 miles from the Carolinas to the Great Lakes under our own power. So this reenactment helps to remind people that extinction can be prevented if people live simply, moving about the earth slower and wiser. So the awareness and education of these priorities will take place via multiple public events and outreach over the 84-day, 1,300-mile trip. About 30 to 35 events will be completed at various sites across the 6 states that they're traveling. And those 3 priorities that I mentioned are global messages that we will tell through our Tuscarora and Haudenosaunee lenses with an emphasis on our beliefs and culture. So the PowerPoint that I'm going to share is just pictures and memories of the contribution to this journey, the cycling portion that I participated in. And it's really in celebration and dedication and perseverance of the young interns who have so selflessly committed to completing this migration and journey. So please enjoy.
Yo, we are here, gone we are here, now we are here. We are here, gone we are here. We are here, gone we are here, now we are here. You are here, we are here, gone we are here. Yo, we are here, gone we are here, now we are here. We are here, gone we are here. We are here, gone we are here, now we are here. You are here, we are here, gone we are here. Yo, we are here, gone we are here, now we are here. We are here, gone we are here. We are here, gone we are here, now we are here. You are here, we are here, gone we are here. Yo, we are here, gone we are here, now we are here. We are here, gone we are here. We are here, gone we are here, right now we are here. Yo, we are here, we are here, gone we are here. Yo, we are here, gone we are here, right now we are here. We are here, gone we are here. We are here, gone we are here, right now we are here. Yo.
So if you would like to get more information either about the Tuscarora Nation or the Migration Project, you can look at the follow the group on Facebook. They do post often about where they are on their journey. And it's the 2013 Tuscarora Migration Project. Or you can view their website, and that's listed. It's www.tuscaroramigration.org. So thank you. Yahweh.
Thank you, Denise. That was really inspiring. Okay, well, we're coming to the end of the Environmental Highlights webinar. We're going to do questions and answers now. And I'm going to check in with our Technical Assistance Manager. I'm not seeing that we have any questions or questions that have been logged in on the chat box. So I guess we'll go ahead and open it up to participants, and here's how we're going to do this. What we'd like you to do is, if you have a question, we'd like you to raise your hand using the hand icon, raise hand icon, and when you raise your hand, you'll see it. And so, if you have a question, raise your hand. I'm going to go in the order. It'll list the number or the order of hands raised. So, and then when you're selected, I'll call you out. I'll unmute you, and then you'll have to click the talk button to speak. So if anybody has any questions, please raise your hand now, and we'll go through the list. Or if you'd just like to comment. We did have one person in the chat box ask about getting a copy of the presentation, and we're recording this webinar, so we'll have that recording as well as the transcript of it available. All of the ANA webinars are hosted on the ACF YouTube page, so you can find them there. And we've got a question from Mary Kennedy, so I'm going to call on Mary Kennedy, and I think Angela just unmuted you. So Mary, go ahead and click your talk button and ask your question. Okay, she said that she posted her question in the chat room. So her question was, how long did it take to plan this? And I'm assuming that's the migration project. So Denise, you want to answer that?
You know, I don't have the exact length of time, but I know that my cousin Brian Printup had spent at least 1.5 years in planning the project, trying to figure out the migration route, making sure that it was doable for the hiking and the cycling and the canoeing. So it took quite a long time for them to plan the entire project.
Okay, thank you, Mary, for that question. Any other questions? Okay, so not seeing any other questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put in an evaluation form that we'd like you to go ahead and fill out while you're online here. And you can do this right in your screen. We appreciate your participation today, and also please check the ANA National website for our upcoming webinars. You'll also find links to the regional TTA providers on the national site, the ANAeastern.org, ANAwestern.org, ANAPacificBasin.org, and our site, ANAalaska.org. Apologize. And then the next upcoming webinar is April 25th, so we encourage you to register for that. And again, please complete the evaluation form and let us know what you thought. And also, this is an anonymous form. Please, when you get to the bottom of the form, there's a submit button. Please hit the submit button, or we won't get your comments. So we'll stay online here for a couple of minutes, and I don't know if anybody at ANA has any closing comments, but if you do, I'll give you the opportunity now.
No, thank you very much, Anthony, and thank you for everyone for participating. Really appreciate it, and happy Earth Day, everyone.
Yeah, thank you to all the presenters, and we'll just stay on here another minute or two to let you complete the evaluation form, and then again, we hope to see you on our next webinar. Thank you so much, everybody. Guyana from Alaska.